In the late 1980s, Nintendo looked at the NES controller and apparently decided children weren't sweating enough. Enter the Power Pad, a giant plastic mat covered in buttons that turned your living room into a track field, dance studio, obstacle course, and a potential insurance claim. Instead of sitting on the couch, you ran in place, you jumped, you stomped, and occasionally cheated by dropping to your knees and slapping the buttons with your hands like a desperate game show contestant. The Power Pad never became the future of gaming Nintendo hoped that it would, but it did receive a surprisingly strange library of games, from legitimate fitness titles to street chases, haunted mazes, and whatever the hell Takeshi's Castle was trying to accomplish. So clear some space, apologize to the downstairs neighbors, and stretch something important because today we're talking about every Power Pad game ever. Let's begin. Before Nintendo had us swinging Wii remotes and punching grandma on the shoulder, it asked an equally dangerous question. What if we made kids exercise? Athletic World was one of the first games built for Bandai's Family Trainer, later released alongside Nintendo's Power Pad. You compete in events like the 100-meter dash, hurdles, triple jump, and long jump by stomping across 12 pressure-sensitive buttons. The faster your feet moved, the faster your athlete would run. And honestly, it works better than you would expect, at least it did back then. The mat was responsive. Running felt surprisingly satisfying, and timing a jump correctly was rewarding. The real challenge is staying on the damn thing. You begin perfectly centered, but 30 seconds later, one foot is on the carpet and your athlete has apparently changed lanes without you. It's simple and it doesn't offer much depth, but Athletic World was experimenting with physical controls nearly 20 years before the Wii. And between me and you, any NES game capable of making an 8-year-old voluntarily perform cardio deserves some level of respect. This is the Power Pad game everyone knows, even if they know it primarily because one version cost more than a used car, or in some cases a whole dealership worth of new cars. Originally released by Bandai as Running Stadium in Japan and Stadium Events in North America, the game was pulled after Nintendo acquired the accessory rights and relaunched it as World Class Track Meet. Very few North American copies of Stadium Events reached customers, turning it into one of the NES library's most notorious collector's items. If your family bought one and tossed it into a closet, congratulations, your childhood clutter outperformed most modern retirement accounts. No matter what version of the game you play, it still remains the same, right? You sprint, you hurdle, you jump by hammering the Power Pad with your feet, and the simple events make it easy for anyone to play. Naturally, children immediately discovered that kneeling beside the mat and slapping it with their hands was faster. I learned it from the AVGN. Nintendo promoted fitness, and throughout time, we promoted efficiency. World Class Track Meet remains the definitive Power Pad experience, at least for me. It's responsive, competitive, and fun with friends. It's just amusing that the cardboard box eventually became far more exciting than the game inside it. Dance aerobics was Nintendo looking directly at mom and saying, "Horene, nesu date undo kiku ni naru n da yo." The main mode has you follow an instructor through aerobic routines by stepping on different sections of the Power Pad. It's essentially prehistoric DDR, Dance Dance Revolution, only without licensed music, flying arrows, or anything that sounds more advanced than a bargain bin Casio keyboard. Surprisingly though, it's not bad. The instructor demonstrates each movement clearly, the routines gradually become harder, and the game will absolutely make you sweat. It might not replace a gym membership, but for 1988, turning a game console into an interactive workout was kind of ambitious. The funniest part is being enthusiastically encouraged by an 8-bit instructor while a plastic mat slowly defeats you in your own living room. Jogging race, at least in the title, has already explained itself. You jog, and it's a race. Released only in Japan, it drops the field events and focuses on running through parks, streets, and other courses with the power pad. Rather than sprinting for a few seconds, you maintain a steady pace, you avoid obstacles, try to outlast your opponents. The presentation is charming and surprisingly relaxed, at least until you're breathing hard while an 8-bit crowd watches you lose to a man who doesn't physically exist. The longer races also encourage the traditional power pad strategy of gradually reducing your steps until you're barely twitching your feet and insisting it still counts. There isn't much depth, but Jogging Race knows exactly what it is. Jogging brought indoors for people who apparently found fresh air too distracting. It's repetitive and hardly essential, but it commits completely to its tiny premise. Mero Daisakusen, roughly translated as Great Maze Strategy, proves developers didn't look at the power pad and see only a running accessory. This Japan exclusive has you navigate top-down mazes with your feet, avoiding enemies, collecting items, and searching for the exit. It's a clever attempt to use the mat as a full controller rather than just an exercise gimmick. Unfortunately, mazes require precision. And precision is not what you get while tiptoeing across a plastic floor mat. Moving one space can become a negotiation between your foot, the sensor, and whatever god oversees terrible control schemes. Still, Mero Daisakusen is one of the more interesting power pad experiments. The hardware isn't especially suited to it, but at least Bandai tried building an actual adventure around the accessory instead of ordering the player to run in place again. Street Cop imagines law enforcement as running around a neighborhood and beating the absolute dog shit out of anybody who looks remotely suspicious. That's basically the whole game. You jog across the power pad, chase down criminals, and then repeatedly stomp the mat so your character can whack them with a nightstick. There's no directing traffic, helping pedestrians, or responding to emergencies. You just run, you catch somebody, and you introduce their skull to municipal funding. Apparently, the only qualification for police work in 1987 was cardio endurance and an enthusiastic disregard for de-escalation. Honestly, the only thing separating Street Cop from a modern American policing simulator is that nobody thought to plug in the NES zapper. Give the officer a light gun, add a mandatory paid vacation after every shooting, and this thing would be 30 years ahead of its time. The power pad does make the pursuit slightly more physical than your average NES game. You are jogging in place while your character waddles after some criminal who apparently escapes at the speed of a casual Sunday walk. Once you reach them, the game stops pretending this is an exercise and becomes Baton Assault Simulator. And as someone who works in corrections, I can confirm that if every use of force incident required sprinting on a plastic mat first, most officers would either have calves like tree trunks or immediately request light duty. Street Cop is repetitive though, it's ridiculous, and probably the only police game where the greatest threat to public safety is the officer violently stomping around his own living room. After making individual players suffer, Super Team Games expanded the misery to friends and family. This game focuses on relay races and team challenges, with players taking turns sprinting across the power pad. Coordination matters, which makes it an excellent game for discovering that nobody in your household understands the phrase, "Hey, fuck you, wait your turn." The colorful presentation and simple events make it feel more like a party game than a serious athletic competition. Its main weakness, though, is that it needs other players. Alone, you're just rotating through team events while wondering why everyone suddenly had somewhere else to be. With a group, though, Super Team Games understood the accessory perfectly. Physical games become much funnier when everyone gets a turn looking ridiculous. Long before Mario Party began destroying friendships, the power pad was already starting arguments over false starts in the living room. Totsugeki Fun Takeshi Joe is based on Takeshi's Castle. What the fuck is that? You see, back in the day, it wasn't uncommon for Japanese TV shows to be redubbed with American bullshit, like we saw with Super Sentai and the Power Rangers, or Metal Hero Tokusatsu and Big Bad Beetleborgs. What about VR Troopers? Well, that's 3 different shows combined. Midalder, Spielbahn, and Space Sheriff Scheider. Takeshi's Challenge? It came to America as the Most Extreme Elimination Challenge. Yeah, Spike TV, remember that? Contestants ran through mud, dodged giant obstacles, and suffered spectacular injuries while we all laughed on our couches. So naturally, someone decided you, the viewer, should suffer too. Using the power pad, you run, jump, and dodge through challenges inspired by the show. It's chaotic and rough around the edges, but the concept fits the hardware remarkably well. Takeshi's Castle was already about exhausted people failing absurd obstacle courses, so physically controlling a contestant feels more appropriate here than in most licensed games. And then we have the sequel. Fun Takeshi Joe 2 offers exactly what a sequel should. More courses, more events, and additional ways to embarrass yourself in front of your family. The mechanics are largely unchanged, but the greater variety makes it feel more confident than the first game. You sprint and flail through another collection of challenges, while everyone on the couch contributes valuable advice such as, "Hey boy, run faster." "Gee, thanks, Uncle Steve, my alcoholic uncle who only comes around once a year because the rest of the family changed their locks. I'll be sure to apply that same laser-focused wisdom the next time you're trying to back your truck out of a fucking drainage ditch." Neither one of these games are what I would consider a hidden masterpiece, but both understand their license and the power pad. That's all you could ask for. The show was about ordinary people tackling ridiculous physical challenges, and these games let you join them without being launched face first into a solid object that probably causes brain damage. Just when the power pad library appears incapable of getting stranger, along comes a game about baby hopping vampires. Rai Rai Kyonshi's Baby Kyonshi no Amida Daiboken is based on a Japanese children's TV series featuring Jiangxi. It was made for kids who already knew the characters, leaving everyone else to wonder why Casper was bouncing around like his feet had been stapled together. You hop, dodge, and move through colorful obstacle courses using the power pad. The controls are responsive enough, and the cheerful presentation captures the tone of the show even when you have absolutely no idea what's going on. It's more interesting as a cultural curiosity than as a game I would play, but that's part of the appeal of exploring the Famicom library. This was created for a very specific audience and makes no effort to explain itself to anyone else. Somebody saw a children's show about hopping vampires and decided what it really needed was cardio. I respect that. Our final game today is actually a 2-game cartridge, giving the power pad 2 completely different jobs while thankfully avoiding another track meet. In short order, an animal customer gives you a sequence of burger ingredients, then adds another ingredient after every successful order. You recreate the sequence by stepping on matching pairs of power pad buttons. It's basically Simon Says inside a hamburger shop, except Simon is a hungry fucking pig and your controller is the living room floor. Explode, however, turns the mat into a chicken coop. A fox plants bombs beneath the hens, and each nest corresponds to a numbered section of the power pad. You have to stomp the correct spot before the bomb goes off, but stepping on a nest with an egg destroys it instead. Apparently, the only thing standing between these chickens and a violent death is a child with questionable balance. Neither game has much depth, but both use the accessory creatively. Short Order turns it into an oversized memory game, and Explode makes all 12 spaces part of a quick reaction challenge. And that's it for today's episode. What did you think of this list? Do you remember any of these games that we talked about today? If so, feel free to let me and the community know down in the comment section below. Speaking of our community, if you made it to the end of this episode, you're already home with us. We're a gathering of video game enthusiasts that love to remember when life was just a little bit easier to live. And if you align with that, feel free to subscribe. Finally, the single most important thing you can do for me is to hit that thumbs up button, as it directly impacts the visibility of the videos and the projects that I work on every single day. As always, from my family to your family, good energy, good vibes. Fortefyre out.